everybody. This is Cindy the Paint Diva with another episode of Paint the Town. Yes, I thought I would, let's name these episodes. I actually had that idea years ago because I used to do a cable show, and I thought, you know what, I should do one and call it Paint the Town and go around and talk to everybody in town, and here I am doing it. How about that? So where am I today? I am at, as you can see the sign behind me, I'm at St. Andrew's Church. The address is 419 South Street, Murray Hill. That's the address I used to write to my grandparents at. It's in New Providence. And this building that you're looking at used to be a mansion. It was built in 1905, but my grandfather came in 1960 and turned this into an Episcopal church. Here's the footprint here. You can see that it looks like a house, right? So let me give you a little history. The house was originally built by Charles Shreve, who owned 400 acres of property from the Murray Hill train station, which is down that way, up to Mountain Avenue, up that way. That's the area, if you watched the other day, I told you the history of Murray Hill. Okay, that was all owned by Charles Shreve, and he was known as the Mineral Water King. He made his money selling mineral water in the 1880s and had 11 children. And he built this house for his youngest daughter, the 11th daughter named Elsie. She got married at St. Luke's Episcopal Church down the street in 1903, and he built her this house in 1905. In the 1960s, actually in 1960, that actual year, there were people in town that were Episcopal that wanted to have a church built, and they were doing home meetings. That's how a lot of churches start. They meet in people's homes. And they had a kickoff meeting in the gym at what is now the Borough Hall, but it was Lincoln School. At the time, it was the only school in town. And they had that meeting on the Feast of St. Andrew, and that's where the name came from. That is why it's called St. Andrew's Church. And they called the bishop. They said they wanted to start a church, and the bishop came, and they looked at about 20 properties, and as they were driving up South Street, the bishop said, hey, that would make a good place for a church. So they bought the property. They bought it for $50,000 in 1960. That actually was a lot of money. But the church bought it, and they brought my grandfather in, and he became the rector. So my grandmother was Patty Pickens. She and her two sisters were the Pickens sisters in the 1930s. They were very famous singers. They were like the Andrews sisters. They were in a movie with Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, I think, and they used to sing on the radio. These were the days before television, so all the famous people used to be on the radio. My grandmother and her sisters, the Pickens sisters, used to sing for NBC, and that is where she met her first husband, Robert Simmons, and he was also a singer, and they got married and lived on my dad called it a farm, but I looked it up recently. It was for sale. It was an estate. It was an estate in Pennsylvania. My grandfather passed away suddenly at a heart attack in the, my dad said it was in the lobby of the Bethlehem Hotel. And she found herself a young widow with 3 kids. And then she met Charles Shreve and married him, and she moved here. Probably around 1960, I guess. Early 60s. Okay, we're going to go in, and I want to show you the footprint. This was a mansion, as I said, so this was the foyer of the mansion, and my grandparents used to live on the 2nd and 3rd floor upstairs. So every time I see the staircase, I think of them. They would, that's how I would go visit my grandparents. We would go up there. And then to the left is a room that was, I don't know if it's the living room or the dining room, but in here you will see there's a picture of my grandfather that I'm sure was a famous artist that did this, because my grandfather was friends with many artists, but my grandmother used to joke around and call him the Pope in pink in this photo. There he is, and you can see what he looked like. This section was all added on. They had their first service outside on the lawn in 1960 on Easter, and it was this section that I'm standing in right here was just an outdoor porch right here, and then beyond that this was all added on. So this is all the same. I mean, the wall colors are the same. It's some type of a faux finish. I'm not sure. It's like a metallic faux finish. The benches are all the same. So the artist's name was Fernando Calderon, and he was from Spain. He was classically trained. Before my grandfather came here, he used to be at the Episcopal Church, I think it was a cathedral, I'm not sure, in Rome. So you will see a lot of European influence, and my grandfather was friends with artists, starving artists, and I think that they lived at the church, probably the house or something owned by the church on the property, and the artists would live there because they had no money, and my grandfather befriended them, and Fernando Calderon was one of them. And so when he had the church built, he had Fernando Calderon come here and paint these murals, and I think he did these for free just to thank him for, you know, putting him up when he was in Rome. And I remember being a little girl sitting here, I was probably 4 years old, watching him paint this with a palette knife. This is all done with a knife. And so you notice that they're sort of anonymous faces, but this one is modeled after my grandfather, and that is Peter. See, he's the fisherman, he's the fisher of men. And Peter was the one that Jesus said, upon this rock I will build my church. Right? So you can see the detail in his face, but what I want you to see is, look at the texture. I'm not touching it, but I want you to see the bumpy texture. I mean, it's so thick. I don't know. I just remembered watching him do this with a palette knife. It was just unbelievable. I think he starts with the dark outline, and then he comes and he fills it in. Rick Anderson, who you met in one of my other videos, he's from the Historical Society. He told me that they had these restored about 10 years ago. So that's this side, okay? And then across here on that side, this is the face of the artist, Fernando Calderon. And he is looking directly across at Peter, and this apostle is St. Andrew, and that's the church, St. Andrew's Church, right? So as you can see, these murals are nothing like mine, but I do think it was probably an influence that I didn't even remember until I was an adult, and I came here to paint a mural upstairs in the nursery. I painted a Noah's Ark mural, and when I was here doing that and looking at these murals, I said, oh my goodness, I think this was an influence in my life, and I didn't even think about it. So this is all my grandfather's influence. I mean, he added the stone wall, which is beautiful. Don't even ask me where he got the idea to do that, right? Look at the beams on the ceiling, right? The altar. All of this was done. This was all my grandfather's design. I mean, really, he should have been an interior designer. He also, when he was a kid, he worked at a florist shop. So one of the things we used to do together is, see how they have flowers on the altar? Those aren't the real, you know, on Sunday they will have a big, beautiful arrangement of fresh flowers. And at the end of the week, they would always bring new flowers. So he'd take the old flowers and he would go make a new flower arrangement with them, and he would show me how to do it. And he taught me how to arrange flowers. And I used to sing in the choir right here. So these were big influences in my life, okay? So people don't understand me. They're like, I don't understand. You sing, you dance, you paint, you do all these things, and because this is my life that I'm sharing with you. My grandmother was a singer. I used to sing in the choir. I was also what they call an acolyte. You know, Catholics will have altar boys. We used to let girls do it here. We used to, you know, start the procession, and we would come all the way down here and go down and ring the bell. Again, I'm not going to ring the bell, but and we would light the candles, or we'd put the candles out and do the procession back out again. That organ there, I used to play the organ. I used to play the piano in the parish hall, and I used to, sometimes when nobody was here, I would sit and I'd play the organ. I used to spend a lot of time alone up here in this place, hanging out. All right, so let's take a walk. That's the story of this. And as I told you, that's my grandparents used to live up there on the second and third floor. I think they have offices, and the choir rehearses up there and things now. I'm not gonna bother them up there. Here's how the acolytes, we used to light the candles and snuff them out with this. But this is, I always like this area. This is the back kitchen. This is again how you know it's a mansion, right? This is the servants' stairs in the back that used to go up to their apartment. I used to come down here a lot. This is where I used to rearrange the flowers with my grandfather. But this I always thought was cool. This is a dumbwaiter. If anybody knows what a dumbwaiter is, it's used for storage now. But in the 1900, the servants would put food here and they would pull the chain and hike it upstairs. Okay, let's talk more about murals. So I'm going to come down here. Again, this is all now added on. This was all an addition. Downstairs is nursery school. You can hear all the kids down there. And if you come in here, this is the parish hall. See, it says parish hall. And this is another mural. This one they commissioned Fernando Calderon to come back and paint this mural. And this is of the birth of Christ. This is, Christmas Eve, right? And if you look up top, let me see if I can zoom in. Okay, Mary is modeled after my Aunt Helen, my father's sister. She was quite a stunning beauty. That's her face again over there as an angel. There she is again. She graduated from New Providence High School in 1969. Oh, now I'm trying to back out and I don't think I can. Hold on. There we go. Okay. And the person that commissioned this, oh, I forget what Rick said. I think one of their children had passed away or something. And the faces of these shepherd boys are their children, the person that commissioned this work of art. Again, I remember very vaguely and briefly watching him paint this. You can see the texture in it again, but it's not as heavy a texture as the other mural in the sanctuary. But I think that this mural is just really, really stunning.